session, I request all the participants to switch off their camera and mute the mic. There will be an interaction section at the end of each technical session where you can type your questions in the chat box and interact with our resource person. Now, let me introduce our resource person. Our resource person is Professor Somasekharan Pillai sir, a retired associate professor and head of the PG and Research Department of Statistics, University College, Thiruvananthapuram. He has a teaching experience of 25 years, which includes 20 years of PG teaching experience. He published more than 10 research papers, co-authored a book. He has several conference papers in his account. He guided about 40 PG works associated with various projects of Kerala State Planning Board, Child Rights Commission, MHRD Government of India, and Kerala State Higher Education Department. He served as a resource person in more than 500 workshops, seminars, training programs, career development programs conducted by various universities, colleges, government departments, and academic staff colleges. He served as a member in various expert committees constituted by Kerala State Entrance Commission, Kerala Public Service Commission, and the Collegiate Education Department, Kerala. Now, I proudly invite Professor Somasekharan Pillai sir to the first technical session of this seminar. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sumitranan, for the nice words. And good morning, all the participants. We will have a webinar on research methodology in 2 days. And we have hardly 5 hours in 2 days. So first I will say what is the plan of this webinar or these sessions. There will be one session, or that is the first session, in which I just introduce the meaning of research. Then I will go to the other session about statistical measures and basics of statistics, including probability distribution, etc. Then the other topic will be statistical inference. That means testing your hypothesis, estimation, etc. And tomorrow we will have 2 sessions, one on correlation and regression analysis and another on error analysis. And this is the plan I have about this webinar because of this limited time available. So I welcome all of you to this program, this webinar. And also I request all the participants to kindly interact with me, and if there is any doubt, you can always raise the doubt through the chat box or by voice. And I will handle this session in English, but the participants can ask questions either in English or in Malayalam. There is no problem. So once again, I welcome all of you, and I will start the session by switching over to the presentation. Okay. I hope it is visible for everybody. Whether the presentation is visible?
Yes, sir, visible.
Okay. Okay, is it visible? Please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay. Okay then. First I will have a question. How do we make the research meaningful? Or what is the meaning of research? Or how do we carry out a research which is beneficial for the knowledge base as well as the society? What are the points to be remembered by a researcher to make it meaningful? So then, let's just see what are the possible purposes of research, objectives of research. It may be for just gathering information, making inference about something which is uncertain, and creation of knowledge, and find truth by removing garbage and uncertainties. These are all the points important in a research. Okay, we have to gather information, we have to make inferences, and we have to create knowledge. But all this is possible only by removing the errors or garbage or uncertainties which is there in the input. Okay. And broadly we can see that this is the process we do in a research. And we go to the steps in detail. And before that, what are the parameters of meaningful research? Motives, attitude, definition of the problem, relevance of the problem, research design, includes sample design, relevance of data, sample size, sampling method, quality of data, use of information technology, selection of analytical tools, the method of interpreting and reporting of information, and experience the inference of knowledge. And these are the parameters of meaningful research, and each stage we have to give lot of concern and make it meaningful. Okay, and this is only an introductory session about research because most of the students participating in the webinar are PG students, and they are supposed to do research in the future. So in order to do the research, they need some motivation. Okay, so they should have a positive attitude and good aptitude. So once these three are there, they can enter into the research activity, and then the other parameters are important once you start the research. Okay, find out the problem and define the problem, and you should check out what is the relevance of that problem. Okay, whether that topic is or which will produce something fruitful for the society and the subject or knowledge base. And now the question is, how do you design that research? There are various steps in the design of research that we will discuss in detail. And right now we cannot conduct a research without using information technology. So you must be aware about what is the scope of information technology in research. Okay. Then Another problem is, once you get data, you have to convert it into information or inference. So we have to depend certain tools to analyze the data you have. And you must be aware about what are the analytical tools available in your problem or in your situation. So once you produce the output of this analysis, now the problem is, how do we interpret that one? And how do we effectively report it into or make it an information which is readable and it will be, or the others will be able to understand the output of your research. And what is the last stage of research? How do we make it useful for the society, the output of the research? Or experience the knowledge? Or that stage is called wisdom.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, are you still in the title page? Because I don't see it moving.
Oh, it is not moving?
No, sir, no.
Sir,
Is it-
slideshow, please.
Okay. Now is it visible? No.
No, sir, it is not changing. Maybe you should, close it and start once more.
Okay, definitely. Is it okay now? Is it visible?
It's visible. It's still not changing. If you are trying to change it.
Is it changing now?
No, still
No.
the title page. Yeah.
Maybe you can present it.
Slide.
They're not. Slide is not right.
Is it okay now?
It's changing now.
So the problem is when I make it in slideshow, it is not moving. That is the problem. Okay, is it visible right now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, then I shall start once again.
No need, sir. You can continue from where you left.
Okay, then. Okay, please go through these parameters. This is very important for students. Okay. I will discuss about all these parameters in the first session. Then the first one, motives. What are the motives of research? For some people, it will be a process to get a degree. Somebody has to publish certain articles. They intend to publish certain articles. Then somebody is more general. They are interested to, or they want to enhance the knowledge. And somebody wants to invent a new technology and get patent. And somebody's intention will be for intellectual satisfaction. Okay. Then some people may be interested in all these things. Okay. Anyway, these are the most possible motives of doing research. Okay. So there may be at different levels. You can see some people will stop the research after getting a degree. So their motivation was just to get a degree. Somebody will go further by publishing articles. Right now, there are certain restrictions to get a degree. They should publish a minimum number of articles, and after that, they will stop the research. Somebody will continue publishing the articles in order to enhance the knowledge base. And some people do research to find out or to invent a new technology and get patent. And the intellectual satisfaction is the outcome of all these processes. Then, there is a relation between attitude and motives. A bidirectional relation between attitude and motives. If your motive, definitely your attitude will be positive. And if your attitude is positive, definitely you will be motivated. So before starting into research, you should check whether your attitude is positive or not. You are sufficiently motivated, etc. Because the right attitude leads to right motive, and right motive creates right attitude. And attitude is a determinant of motive. Okay? So if you have a good attitude, then your motivation will be sufficiently meaningful, or it will be positive. So this is the relation between these three. You must have an attitude to research. This is compulsory. Okay? It leads to the motivation, and it leads to the attitude, and as well as attitude also leads to motivation. Here there is a bidirectional relationship. Here there is a unidirectional relationship. So dear students, if you are interested to do research at any stage, even in the postgraduate level, in the postgraduate level also we do research in project work, etc. And the PhD work or any other. Even without PhD, you can do research. Okay? You can publish articles. You can study certain things. You can publish articles. So wherever we do research, these three components are very important. Okay? So if you plan to do research at any stage, then you should develop or you should realize yours about these 3 points. Then the next question is, how do we define a problem once we decided to start research? The first question of research is the problem definition. And this is the most important stage in the research. Once you fail in defining the correct problem, definitely it will affect the whole research. So what are the important points to be remembered while defining a problem? You see, usually a postgraduate or PhD or some other research, it is a time-limited program. Okay, for 3 years or 4 years or maximum 5 years, etc. So while selecting the topic, you must be aware that this problem must be, or this can be completed within that time. Because in research, we need resource, time, and resource in the sense that cost and all other facilities to do research. And also we need a time. So you must think about that, whether this topic or this process can complete within this time if I choose this topic. And whether the facilities to do research in this topic are available or whether it is accessible. So these are serious problems. Some people will select some topics. Okay. For example, if you do the experiment, you may need many instruments. You may need a good laboratory. But you started research, then only you realize that it will be very difficult to get data to do the experiment within the accessible facilities you have. So definitely it will affect your research. So you must gather all this information to make the topic meaningful and it is specific. And you must realize that, or you must be aware that these things are available and I can do the work in that time. Okay, so the feasibility consent should be there. Okay, and how do you carry out this feasibility, or how do you get information about this feasibility? For that you need lot of homework by reading many material, literature, etc. So the reading is the first step in starting the research. Read lot of literature in the particular area. And also you can take another point while selecting the problem, what is the social relevance of this one, or what will be the contribution of the output of your research in the subjects or in the knowledge. So for example, in the world there are what we can say that a very, very large number of research publications. In daily, we are publishing thousands of articles. But the question is, how many of these articles will contribute significantly to the knowledge base? Or how many of the research will have any social concern, etc. If there is no significant contribution to the knowledge, or if it is not relevant in practical, okay, then it will be the waste of time and the resources. So that is why we discuss about the relevance of the problem, the social relevance versus intellectual satisfaction. Fill a gap in the knowledge base, relevant at present or future, replication of the previous studies, it is not a good practice, replication of a previous study as it is. It is an obvious phenomenon. Some people will select a topic, there may not be any research problem because it is an obvious phenomenon. Okay. I'm not spending much time on this. I just gave this presentation to give an awareness about. And this is very important, research design and sampling design. Okay. You know, what is the need of statistics in all these things that I will discuss in the coming slides? Beside the design of the study, there are different types of studies. Where analytical study, observational study, longitudinal study, evaluation study, theoretical study, experimental study, etc., etc. In physics, most of the people will do either a theoretical study or an experimental study. Okay. So you should decide which design should follow you under that particular topic. And now the question is, no, you see, nobody can collect the complete data to understand a particular problem. So usually we do all these exercises in a selected number of units. The selected number of data or the selected data must be representative of the totality. Okay. So in order to get a representative sample means the sample having all the heterogeneous factors of the totality. That is the meaning of representative. Okay. What are the heterogeneity characteristics available in the totality? There must be some representation in the sample also. So the proper sampling design is very important. If the sampling design is wrong, definitely your research will be wrong. The output will be wrong. Okay. This is true especially in science, in physical science or natural science, everywhere. Before starting to collect data, you should check out what is the design of the study. Okay. Then ensure relevant data will be collected. This is another problem. Some people will complete 3 years of research by collecting some data. Then they start to analyze the data and they realize that there is no sufficient data. The data is not sufficient to prove the hypothesis you already made. Some variable or some characteristics are missing. Okay. So this is your duty to do the extensive literature survey to list out all the characteristics or variables related to your topic. And you must measure all these characteristics to make the analysis meaningful. And thereby you can prove your hypothesis. Then ensure most suitable sampling method that will be used to collect a real representation of the population. This is also true either in observational study or field study or experimental study. In experimental study also actually we are collecting data by random method or sampling method. And also the sufficient replication must be there. So everybody knows, suppose you are doing a particular experiment in your laboratory. Usually you repeat the experiment more times, 3 or 5 or 7 times or something like that. If you repeat it more times, you will get more accurate results. But always this is not possible because sometimes the experiment will be costly. You cannot repeat it many times. So usually we do the repetition at a minimum of 3 times. And next, use scientific procedures to fix the optimum sample size. And now the question is whether there is any rule to fix the sample size. Yes, there is a definite rule to fix the sample size in a particular situation. To fix the optimal sample size. Then the next is make sure the data collection is going on as per the design. Okay. So these are certain important points to be remembered at the start of the research. Okay. Then if you make any mistakes at this stage, it will be very difficult to correct it later. And use of information technology, you must take care, but it is necessary. Okay. These are certain cautions of using information technology. For example, suppose there is a software and you must be careful about the authenticity of that software and the precision of the output of that software, etc. Okay. And also, whether is it the use of information technology research? No. Information technology will add value. It will add value. So you have to use information technology, but you must be careful about using it. Then the next step is analytical tools. Here also you have to take utmost care in selecting analytical tools. Choose carefully. Ensure right method. Theoretically correct. Empirically feasible. Statistical techniques have several data assumptions, so you check out before using it. Analytical tools have a close relation to the hypothesis of the study and the data type. This is a very important point. How do we choose a particular method? For example, everybody knows there are many averages: arithmetic mean, median, mode, geometric mean, harmonic mean, etc. I don't know how many of you know. Where should we use arithmetic mean? Where should we use median? Where should we use mode, etc.? Or geometric mean or harmonic mean, etc.? Or shall we use all these measures at any point or in any type of data? Okay. In fact, even in using or selecting a statistical measure, you must be careful about, because it depends on the data type and the data assumptions. I will discuss this point in detail in the coming sessions. And if you use a software, ensure it is authentic. It is very important. The idea of tools to be used should in your mind at the time of framing objectives or hypotheses. So many people start about thinking about, they start to think about the analysis tools after collecting the complete or the data. But you see, the analytic tools have a close connection with the type of data and the hypothesis. So once you decide the hypothesis and the characteristics measured, the information on the type of data is available. So you can decide, okay, what are the tools to be used. And there may be some differences or some variations because the data assumption is very important. So there may be some shifting of techniques, etc. Okay, that can be accepted. But the general analytical tools should be, it is available at the time of framing objectives or hypothesis. And what are the points to be remembered when interpreting the output and reporting information? Make sure the result is both statistically and practically significant. If not, do not forget to report it. A careful examination of the output is required. Theoretical knowledge of statistics is a must at this stage. Reporting information or inferences is not the process of writing the outcome in statistical terms. It should be clear and simple to understand. After reading this, the reader should be able to understand the solution of the problem we studied. Because there are different types of reporting. Some people will report the research, but there will be completely statistical terminology or statistical jargons. So then what is the problem of this type of reporting? Only the people who are strong in statistical methods will get information about your research. Okay? Definitely, you should not lose the theory or the concept of statistics, but at the same time, you should try to make the writing easy and simple to understand the others. That means even if you are depending the statistical methods, statistical jargons, you should try to write it in terms of, in the language of your subjects. Okay. So reporting, the art of reporting is very important. Okay. So research reporting is an important topic. So that means you have to get many information about the right way of reporting. Okay. Then experience the inference. Bring the outcome of the research to the public domain. Try to get patent. Contact the authority or industry to make it beneficial for the society. Transform or share what we learn to the students. So these are the possible outcome of, this must be the possible outcome of your research. Okay. The first one, these are at different stages. Make it in public domain, or sometimes we try to get patent, and sometimes we contact somebody to make it beneficial for the society. And as a teacher, if you are a teacher, definitely you must transform or share what you learn to the students. So these are some preliminary concepts about research. Okay, so I took hardly 30 minutes to what we call, to give some insight on research. Okay. Now we will switch over to the topic assigned for this particular webinar. So before getting into the first session is about the basics of statistics, statistical measures and its use. And before getting into that, anybody have any doubt regarding the previous slides? You can ask. Anybody have any doubt? Any question?
No, sir, you can continue.
You see, the reason for discussing all these methods is it will be very difficult to get information about the things to be remembered before doing research. That is why I discuss all these things. Definitely, if you follow all these things, the quality of research will be best. Okay, so these points are very important. Anybody have any doubt? You can ask the questions. Otherwise, I will get into the next slide.
Looks like there are no questions, sir. We can continue, I think.
Okay, okay then. You see, now we will get into this slide. Then this slide gives the relevance of statistics in research. Okay. So most of the participants are science students. Now, you see, what is the science? What is science? Okay. In science, we are not developing something, we are not, that means we are not creating anything. Isn't it? We are just inventing, we are just finding whatever available in the nature. Okay. So, a research is a truth-finding work. It is a process of truth-finding. But the question is, what is the difficulty in finding truth? The truth is pure and uncertain. There is no uncertainty in truth. But the problem is it covered by garbage and uncertainties. Okay. For example, in the laboratory, you are using some instrument. This instrument having certain level of precision and accuracy. Okay. But remember, there is no instrument without any error. So the precision always will be up to a particular level. Okay. So no instrument can give the perfect value, or nothing can be measured perfectly. So the source of error is inevitable. So another simple example, suppose an event is happened at somewhere. Okay, there were 10 people at the time. Okay. And you separated all these 10 and you just asked them to explain what happened there. So everybody will give a story about that particular event, but never the story will be exactly same. Isn't it? So if you get the 10 different stories, and within the 10 different stories, there will be something common. Okay? So something, a lot of amount will be the errors or added by that particular person. They are garbages. So suppose you are an investigator to find out the exact truth of that event. This is your duty to process all this description, and from that you have to find out what exactly happened there. This is an invention process. The same process we do in research also. So what we do there, we process that data and we identify the garbage out of that, and we remove it, and thereby we will get the exact truth. Okay? So in any experimental work, there will be this uncertainty and garbage in the data, and the scientific process will remove all these things and find out the truth. But in theoretical research, the situation may be different. And even in the theoretical research, something may be wrong. Okay? So this is the general concept of the application of statistics, because there is uncertainty. And what is the role of statistics? statistics is a subject which deals with uncertainty. You might have heard about probability. This is a measure which we use in statistics. So wherever there is uncertainty, you need the help of statistics. For example, if you do an experiment in the laboratory and you repeated the experiment 3 times, your objective is to guess the best possible value out of this. And since there are 3 different values, there is a question which is the right value. So you have to use some statistics. You just apply a statistical measure which is arithmetic mean. Okay. Then suppose you have to find out what is the possible error of that measurement. You may depend the standard error or standard deviation. So since there is uncertainty, you have to depend some sort of statistics to make it informative. Okay. So statistics is a subject of uncertainty. So wherever there is uncertainty, we have to use the statistical methods to make it informative. So now we think about, in the inaugural session, okay, somebody said about statistics is using everywhere. Everywhere people are using statistics. What is the reason for that? The reason is all the models, natural models are, the behavior of the natural models are random or stochastic. At least at the level of perception. Okay. So if you look at a plant, the flowers of a plant, generally they look alike, but if you evaluate closely, you can see that the flowers are different with respect to the size, with respect to the petals, number of petals, or the color, etc. So each flower will be unique. There will not be 2 flowers, they are exactly same. Similarly, if you look at the petals of a flower, all the petals will be different in terms of shape or size or, okay, sometimes the color also may be different. So the nature induced uncertainty in all its creations. Okay. And in fact, this is the beauty of nature. All its creations will be unique. So if all these models, natural models are random models, in order to understand something about a particular system, you have to use statistical techniques. This is the reason for using statistics in everywhere. But basically, all the natural models are random models. Okay, then can anybody say what is a model? What do you mean by a model? Anybody? What do you mean by a model? Anybody? Any participant? Please. What is a model? Please. Please, can anybody answer this question? What is a model?
So there is an answer in the message box, sir, if you can check.
Okay, simplified representation, isn't it? Simplified representation. Okay, or you can say that it is a miniature of the other one, etc. It is true, but this is not the right answer mathematically. Mathematically, a model is a relation between all the components or the factors of that system. Okay. For example, if you take the model of a car, there is relation between all the components. You just take the two models, so two Maruti models, Alto and Celerio. The door of Alto will not fit as the door of Celerio. And all the components are closely related in terms of measurements. So mathematically, it is just a relationship. Okay. For example, a linear model, y equal to mx plus c. It is a linear model. Here there are two characteristics, x and y, they are related as a straight line. Okay. So all the models can be expressed. If a model can be expressed mathematically, it will be the relationship between the characteristics. So how do you understand a model? By analyzing the relationship between the characteristics in the system. So in fact, this is the process we usually do in statistics. Okay. Then, now the question is, even all creatures are finely tuned and enormously sophisticated statistical instruments to make better decisions. Nature is also in the process of modifying them to be better, more and more better. Since all these creations are statistical, they are not perfect. There is no perfect creation in nature. Okay? If a creation is perfect, there is no chance of modification. So the nature is aware about this fact. There will be something to modify it. Okay? So nature is doing this process by modifying instantaneously. And also the human decisions. We are also a finely tuned systems, sophisticated statistical system. Even a person who is illiterate also is statistically literate. Because if you are not statistically literate, you cannot exist here. Okay? So statistical process is inevitable. Now this is an important question. Where do we apply statistical inference? Inference in the sense testing hypothesis, etc. This question is important because some people will collect data from complete units under study. That is called census data. Even they collected data by census method, you can see they are applying certain statistical tests. For example, analysis of variance or t-test, etc. This is a meaningless process. We do statistical inference only if there is uncertainty. That means only in the case of sample data. That is very important. So where should we apply the testing hypothesis problem? If the data is collected by a random sampling method. Please make it clear. I shall make it clear. If your data is complete, there is no uncertainty, you will get the exact value, then there is no problem of statistical inference. Mathematically, you can compute it without any error. But if the data is collected by a sampling process, never you will get the exact value. There is an error associated with that value, estimated value. Or then in order to make inference, we need the help of statistical inferential techniques. This is a point many people making mistakes. Mistakes means it is a serious mistake. Okay? So this slide is very important. You must be aware about where you should use statistical inference. Then, as you know, what is the basic element in statistics? It is data. Now, I shall ask a question. What is a data? What is data? What is data? Okay, I shall say data is nothing but the result of any activity. I just asked a question, what is data? This is an instrument. Actually, it was an instrument to measure something. And if there is a response, that response is data. If you do an activity in the laboratory, the output will be data. If you look at somewhere, you gather something, that will be data. Okay? You are collecting data through your ears because that audio type data. So naturally the data will be different type, the audio data, the visual data, or image data, etc., many types, numerical data, non-numeric data, etc. So in short, we can say that the result of any activity is data. Then many of you are science people. Okay, I will just ask you another question. What are the sources of data? How do you get? What is the source? Our sense. Our five senses always instantaneously collecting data. Our eyes, it instantaneously collect. Okay, ears, skin, nose, etc. And you see, the data types are different. Something may be audio, image, video, then some sense of touching, smell, taste, etc. Different kinds of data are there. Okay? And this is called the information process. What is the information process? This is the process which happened in statistics. Collect data, analyze it, make it information, and from information we convert it into inference. It will create knowledge, and once it experience or once it practice, it will lead into wisdom. That is the ultimate stage. Okay? So this is the information process which we apply in statistics. Collect data, analyze it, make it information, and that information leads to inference, and once you practice that knowledge, it will lead to wisdom. And this slide, this is very important. There are two kinds of data, the census data and the sampling data. Census data means this complete data. We do not need statistical inferential techniques. But you can use any model. You can do modeling. You can apply statistical measures, etc. But the testing problem is not required there. Okay? But if the data is collected by a sampling method, we need statistical inferential techniques to make inference. Okay, then I just leave that slide. But all the participants could carefully watch this particular slide. Very important. If you don't know anything about this measurement scale, definitely you cannot apply statistics effectively. So this slide is very important. If you have any doubt regarding this slide, please ask me. I shall discuss about this. What are the types of data which we use in statistics? Generally, there are two types of characteristics in nature. The one is qualitative characteristic, the other is quantitative. Qualitative and this is the broad categorization of characteristics in nature. Qualitative characteristics and quantitative characteristics. So now the question is, all the qualitative characteristics are of the same type? No. There are differences in qualitative characteristics. Now the question, what are they? There are certain variables in nature, qualitative variables, which are categories, pure categories, that cannot be measured numerically, or it cannot be ordered. There are characteristics in nature which cannot measure numerically and rank or order. For example, a characteristic, gender. What are the possible categories? Male, female, third gender. Can you measure it numerically? No. Can you rank it or order it? One is higher than the other. No, it is not possible. You take another characteristic, color. There are different categories, white, black, blue, etc., etc. Then you say many colors. Can you say that one color is better than the other? No. One is at the higher level of other. It is also not possible. But there may be some other methods to measure the color in terms of some scientific measurement. That is a different aspect. The color spectrum. Okay. But the numerical characteristics, the perception of color, which is purely qualitative. Okay. Regions, north, south, central, country names, plant names, material names. Okay. They stands only as name, and there is no numerical importance. So we classify it as nominal scale. Okay, what is called nominal scale. This is the lowest type of data because there is no numerical importance for this data. Then please aware about that. Statistics is a branch which completely depended on mathematics. So if you want to do anything in statistics, we need the mathematical support. Okay? In mathematics, we always use numbers or measurements. So naturally there is a question, if the data is nominal, what mathematics we can use out of that data? Can anybody say that? If a characteristic is nominal, can you add it? No. Can you multiply it? No. You cannot divide, subtract, add, multiply, square root, exponentiation. No process, mathematical operations can be done on that data. Okay. So that is the limitation of this scale. That means you cannot depend any statistical method which depended on these mathematical operations. Okay. But you can do one thing. What is that? You can count the categories. You can count it. If you can count, you can say what is the frequency of the category. So nominal scale, how many male are there? How many female are there? How many third gender are there? Okay. Suppose you have a bag of flowers. Okay. A bag full of flowers of different colors. How many white flowers? How many red flowers? How many yellow flowers? Etc. So you will get a mathematical entity which is frequency. Frequency alone. Okay? Please make sure you understood this thing. But there are certain qualitative characteristics which cannot measure numerically, but you can order it. For example, education. Education is a quality. So you know that the school education is higher than illiteracy. Undergraduation is in the higher level of school education. Post-graduation is in the higher level of undergraduation, etc., etc. So that variable education having two mathematical entities on the frequency, second order or rank. Okay. So the next level of data is called ordinal scale because it can order. So in this case, you can use either the frequency or the rank of the observations or the order of the observations. Okay, if you can order it, you can use a particular statistical theory that is called order statistics. Order statistics. Okay, I will give you examples of analysis techniques in all these type of scales. So these are the two scales which can be included in the broad categorization qualitative variable. Then now we will get into quantitative variables. There are two subdivisions in quantitative variables also, in terms of absolute zero or true zero. There are certain quantities which do not have an absolute zero or true zero. That type of scales are called interval scale. For example, temperature. Whether the temperature having any absolute zero? Anybody? Because physics students are there. Whether the temperature have any absolute zero?
No, sir.
No, there is no absolute zero. So then let us see what is the.
Excuse me, sir. Why is that? Could you explain why? Because there is an
I will give you. I will give you the meaning. The state of the freezing point of water. Okay, what is the temperature?
That is 0 degrees Celsius.
That is in Celsius scale. If you use another scale.
Yeah, but you can always use Kelvin scale, right? So there is an absolute zero there.
What is that? Absolute. What is the indication of zero there?
No, that can be defined properly. I mean, mathematically also you can do that. There is something called an absolute zero.
You see, if something is in absolute zero, if some characteristic have an absolute zero, whatever scale you used it, whatever the unit of scale you used, zero will be zero.
No, that is not necessary. You can have a variable, you add some constant to that, there will be, that is a new variable that has some value that is different from zero.
You see, this absolute zero depended on the mathematical entity. If there is an absolute zero, you can apply the division process. Division will be meaningful. So for another example, you see temperature and intelligence. The intelligence score of some people will be 50. Another person's intelligence score is 25. Can you say that the intelligence is double of the other one?
No, I didn't get that question. What was that?
So suppose you take otherwise you can take the temperature itself. Can you say that the 25 or 50 degrees centigrade is exactly double of 25 degrees centigrade?
Yes. Why is that a problem?
You can divide it also.
Divide means you can divide 50 by 2 to get...
So you see whether the physical meaning will be same.
No, that...
The problem lies on physical meaning. If you add 50 degree and 50 degree, what will be the output of the temperature?
That you can't, because that
yes. If that means, you see, if that process is not meaningful there, that means there is no absolute zero. That zero is relative. In fact, that zero is relative. Okay? There zero denotes. You can apply, you can develop any scale which should fix the value zero for a particular state. So in degrees Celsius, what we do, the freezing point of water is fixed as zero. and all other values are relative to that particular point. So somebody else can develop another scale. There also they can fix the value of 0. So that 0 is not absolute. But you see, this is not possible in the case of weight. So whatever the scale of measurement you use in weight, in computing weight, whether the 0 will be same or not. What is 0 gram and 0 kilogram? What is the relation between 0 gram and 0 kilogram?
Yeah, that's fine. So it's only that's because you define the scale using some multiplicative factors. So that's why.
No, this is not a mathematical phenomenon. It is a natural phenomenon. You see, since this scale is, this variable is in having a true absolute 0 to a true 0 or absolute 0, naturally this is not a mathematical contribution. Whatever be the scale you apply, the 0 will not change. Okay? What is the multiplication rule? Since this, you see, the length, weight, etc., the physical meaning of 0. What is the meaning of 0? You see, what is the meaning of 0? Mathematical meaning of 0?
So, but when you associate these numbers to...
No, this is my question. What is the physical meaning of the number 0?
I don't know. That depends upon...
Yeah, that I will explain. The physical meaning of 0 is something is absent. Some characteristic is absent. Do you agree?
True, sir. I mean...
Yes. Then weight is 0. Weight is 0 means there is no weight. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Then please listen. Then if there is a characteristics which do not have that particular characteristics, whatever measure you use, the value will not change. But the temperature, can you say that at the case of the state of freezing point of water, there is no temperature?
No, you cannot.
Can you say that in degrees Celsius, 0 degrees Celsius, can you say that there is no temperature?
Not in degrees Celsius, sir.
Yeah. Let it be there. Let it in Kelvin scale. Can you say that 0 Kelvin, there is no temperature?
So you could say that the temperature is 0. That is the only meaning that you can apply to.
So that is the difference between a relative measure and absolute measure. You should understand what is the difference between relative measure and absolute measure.
So it should not be connected to the value 0, sir, because you can always define mathematical functions, and it should be related to something else. I mean, that's what I understand from this discussion.
No. The mathematical meaning is, you see, mathematics cannot change the natural phenomena. The mathematics is according to the natural phenomena, isn't it? Some characteristics, the characteristics are relative. Okay, there is no absolute 0. You can just assume a value 0 by defining the state. That is only possible. But is that variable having, or that characteristic having an absolute 0, you need not assign 0 there. There will be a true 0. 0 means 0. That is absent. But in the other characteristics, there is no state of absence. That is the problem. Because mathematically 0 means absence of that characteristics. In the case of temperature, there is no state of absence of temperature. That is why we call it as...
But that is not true, sir. In physics, we always...
How can you say that it is not true? Because this is science. This is not my contribution. Santosh ji, this is not my contribution.
But are you saying that there is no absolute 0 and you will not have, division by 0 appearing if you make formulas based on temperature?
Mathematically it is meaningless. It will not give the physical meaning of division. The physical meaning of division is, if I divide something with 100, it will be exactly half in terms of the physical concept. It should be. If I add 50 gram and 50 gram, it will be 100 gram. But never the temperature, the physical meaning of the temperature will be like that. Similarly, another variable, intelligence. I cannot say that a person, suppose I conducted a test for intelligence test for students. Unfortunately, all students get the value 0. Can you say that student having no intelligence? Is it possible?
No.
It is only, it is only a relative value. Because it is only a relative value, there is no absolute zero there. And you cannot say that a student who got 25 score and another student having 50 score, you cannot say that the student who got 50 score having double intelligence of the student who got 25 score.
Sir, excuse me, sir. So the thing that I can agree on, whatever discussion we had is only this. I can accept that in temperature, the addition of temperatures is meaningless.
Santosh, this is the basic algebra. Sorry, basic arithmetic. The addition is not meaningful. Addition is not meaningful. How the division can be meaningful?
No. So the point is this, sir. But there is something called an absolute zero. It's very well defined and it's rigorous. So there is. So
you see, the absolute zero cannot be defined. This is a very what you are saying, that absolute zero cannot be defined. Please, you can define zero only in the case of relative measure. Relative. Yeah, that is the difference. You see, absolute, you cannot define an absolute zero. So you should just think about philosophically. You cannot change something mathematically for a natural phenomena, isn't it? This is only a natural phenomena. We are discussing about the natural phenomena of the characteristics. Okay, the mathematics is associated with the natural phenomena. You cannot change the natural phenomena by inducing something in mathematics. You just say that you assume zero. I agree with that. How can you assume? Because there is no absolute zero. Okay. But if there is an absolute zero, you cannot assume it. You need not assume it. It will be zero.
No, sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I think we should continue with our discussion. Maybe later we can.
Better, Santosh, you read some literature regarding this one. That is good. Okay. Okay, then. So you see, there are 4 scales: nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, and a ratio scale. These are the 4 scales available in natural variables. Okay, this is related natural variables. Then now see, what is the relevance of this scale difference? Okay, the statistical techniques are developed exclusively for a particular scale. For example, certain technique cannot be applied in any of the scale: nominal, ordinal, interval. It can be applied only for ratio scale. Some techniques can be used either in interval scale or in ratio scale. Some techniques can be applied in ordinal scale, interval scale, ratio scale. There are some techniques which can be applied in all scales, isn't it? If you are not aware about this thing, definitely you will be wrong in using statistics. That is called the misuse of statistics. Many people are doing this frequently. They are not aware about the scale, but they are using statistics. That is the most serious mistakes they are committed in analyzing the data by statistical techniques. If a researcher, he used this statistical technique without aware about the difference between interval scale and ratio scale, what happens? They will apply a ratio scale technique, an interval scale technique, ratio scale technique for a data which is measured in interval scale. Okay? So these scales are very important. I will explain this in detail, even while using that averages, etc. Okay. So this scale is very important. If you are not aware about these things, there is no need of learning statistics, because that will be wrong. Okay. Regarding any other doubt, you can ask. Then let us see what are the statistical tools and concepts available. So sometimes we use the statistics at the minimum level, the presentation of data in a more interpretable term, in terms of statistical measures, or not only the statistical measures, tabular form or graphical, or what we call the diagrammatic procedures, etc. And some people may apply statistics at a more higher level analysis of data. That means to analyze different characteristics of data, like the different statistical measures, etc. Then the third one helps to take best possible decision in an uncertain situation. That is called inferential techniques. Another level of using statistics is construct random or stochastic model for a set of data. Then sometimes we have techniques to study the interrelationship between variables. There are further methods, classification methods, and data reduction methods, etc., etc. There are so many methods. Okay. Then I will get into the descriptive statistics. Under this category, this is very important because in any analysis we use descriptive statistics. The major purpose is to present information in a convenient, usable, and understandable form. Includes tables, graphs, diagrams, and statistical measures. Then I will just get into statistical measures because you can go through these tables, diagrams, etc. Then first the question is, if you have a variable that is called univariate case, a single variable, the question is, how do you understand a single variable? A variable having 4 characteristics, 4 different statistical characteristics. The one is averages, second is its dispersion or scattering, the third one is symmetry property, the fourth one is the piquetness of the data or the curve. So these are the 4 univariate measures which we use in statistics. Then I will explain how this thing is connected to the scale that we discussed earlier. Suppose you have a data in nominal scale. There is no mathematical entity behind that except the frequency. So now the question is, can you apply the arithmetic mean as a measure? For example, I have different brands. Now the question is, what is the average brand? The brand of a commodity. There is a question, what is the average brand of a particular commodity? Since there is no mathematical expression or numerical importance, you cannot add the values. You cannot order that. So you cannot apply arithmetic mean, you cannot apply median, you cannot apply geometric mean, you cannot apply harmonic mean, etc. So the only thing is you can find out the most frequent item, that is the mode. So if the scale is nominal, you have to use mode. Okay, you don't have any other option. Okay, if a person who is not aware about that, what he usually do, he assigns certain numbers to this category. They find out arithmetic mean. These are the blunders which happen in most of the PhD theses. Okay. For example, in the education, they categorize, they put the numbers as 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. for different categories. Finally, they find out the arithmetic mean. They say that this is the mean education. Okay. So this is the problem of not properly using statistics. So if the scale is nominal, you can apply only mode. But if the scale is ordinal, you can find out the frequency as well as the rank of the data. So in that case, you can rank or order the data and choose the middlemost one, which is called median. So if the data is ordinal, you can use mode and median. But you cannot use arithmetic mean, because the value assigned only a relative value. For example, I just got the school education as 1, UG as 2, and post-graduation as 3. The order is very important. It is meaningful. But you cannot say that the difference between 1 and 2 is same as the difference between 2 and 3. Okay. So if you add these numbers, then what happens? It will be against the mathematical principle. In mathematics, the difference between 1 and 2 is same as the difference between 2 and 3. But in your assignment, the difference is not physically same. Okay? The change between school education and the UG is not same as the change between UG and PG. But in order to process it, for processing convenience, we can assign numbers, but with the awareness that the difference is not meaningful there. But you can order it. You can say that 1, 2, 3, this is higher than the other, etc. That is meaningful. So the scale is ordinal. You can use mode as well as median. If the data is in quantitative scale, then you can apply arithmetic mean. If the data moves linearly, the data moves geometrically, the geometric mean will be better. The data having observation having different weights, the harmonic mean will be the right measure. So these things are very important in choosing the statistical measures. You don't have a license to use any statistical measures everywhere. Okay. And similarly, if the data is in nominal scale, in order to understand the scattering or dispersion, you can take only the percentage, nothing more. But if the data is in other scale, you can take the range, the highest value minus lowest value to get the spread of data. But if the data having extreme values or outliers, the range will not be a better measure because it may give lot of wrong information. So in that case, you can remove the effect of outliers by trimming the first 25% value and the last 25% value. Thereby you will get the first quartile and third quartile. You can take the difference of that Q3 minus Q1, which is called interquartile range. And you can standardize it by dividing 2, which is called semi-interquartile range or quartile deviation. This is another measure. Okay. But if the data is quantitative, you can go for mean deviation, standard deviation, etc. So you see all these things to be selected, these measures to be selected with the awareness of the data type. And what is the next property? That is skewness. Skewness is a characteristic is beta. Okay, that is called lack of symmetry. What is symmetry? One side is the mirror image of the other side. That means if a data, their mean, median, mode are equal, same, and one side is the mirror image of the other side, then it is called symmetry. If there is a lack of symmetry, the data is called skewed data. Okay, then the skewed data having lot of problems while analyzing the data. Before using most of the statistical techniques, you should understand what is the skewness of the data. Certain statistical techniques are designed only for symmetric data. So you must check whether the data is symmetric or not. If it is not symmetric, you may not be able to use all the statistical techniques. Just like in the case of scale. If more values are on the left side of the mode value, which is called negatively skewed data, if more values are on the right side of mode, which is called positively skewed data. In the case of negatively skewed data, mean will be in the left hand and mode will be the highest value. So mean minus mode will be negative. The data is positively skewed. The mean will be on the right hand and mode is the least one. So mean minus mode will be positive. So by just computing mean minus mode, you will get the direction of data. And by dividing it with standard deviation, you will get a measure of skewness, which is called Paul-Pearson's measure of skewness. And the next property is kurtosis there. Even though the data is symmetric, the peakedness of the curve will be different. A perfect curve is called a normal curve. A normal curve is a bell, E-E-L-L, bell-shaped curve, E-E-L-L, bell-shaped curve. And if the data, the height of the frequency curve is more than the height of the normal curve, it is called leptocurve. The height of the frequency curve is lesser than the normal curve, which is called platycurve. Or otherwise, you can say that positive kurtosis and negative kurtosis. Okay. So these are the 4 important statistical measures which is used in univariate case. But there will be a problem if you are analyzing more variables. That means if there is one more variable that is called bivariate case, then there is a new characteristic which is called the relation between the variables. So if there are more than one variable, definitely there will come another measure which is called correlation measures or relationship measures. So generally these are the 5 entities we use as statistical measures. Okay. So these are the things about statistical measures. So these things are very important while analyzing data. Whatever be the higher techniques you are using in statistics, before that you should plot the data. You should measure all these statistical measures. You should take all these statistical measures. Do a preliminary analysis of data. Understand the nature of data, type of data. Understand the standard deviation and mean value, etc. And also the symmetry of the data and also the peakness of the data. Because many of the statistical techniques are having data assumptions, and these data assumptions are connected to the statistical measures, and you should ensure the data satisfies the assumptions. Then only you should go for that particular techniques. Otherwise, your data analysis will be wrong. And this is happened frequently in research. That is why many research are good in publication or to get the PhD, but there may not have any physical relevance. You cannot apply it. If you apply it practically, there is no use. The reason is there are problems in your design, the problem, design, and the analysis. And this is the end of the first session. If you have any question, please ask.
Thank you, sir. Now the session is open for discussion. The participants can interact with our resource person. Either you can chat, type the questions in the chat box, or unmute and ask to Somasekharan sir.